Hello.
Hello. Welcome to Purana Talk After Dark. It's a nighttime edition. We didn't get it done during the daytime, so we're doing it in the evening. So,
He's Alan. I'm Leon. We're the Purana guys.
you can call us the Purana guys. This was, you remember the car guys. We think we're the Purana equivalent of the car guys. So if you're having trouble with your Purana, you can phone us. The lines are open, and we can discuss all of your Purana problems. But until somebody calls, we're going to just continue reading the Garuda Purana. This is chapter 155, Diseases.
They're all called that. But then we'll know
Not
here in a
all,
second what the disease is.
Just a bunch of them in this section of the Garuda Purana are known as are subtitled diseases. And they all begin with Dhanvantari said. 1. I shall explain the pathology of Madatyaya, distemper due to inebriation.
So M-A-D.
M-A-D-A with a line over it.
Uh-huh.
T-Y-A-Y-A. So Madatyaya.
Okay.
Now, you might, it says distemper due to inebriation. What do you see right away in that word? You see mud, as in madhu, which is honey, but as in mead. It is etymologically connected.
So possibly drunk on mead.
Well.
But drunkenness.
Yeah. Yeah, well, yeah. I shall explain the pathology of Madatyaya as mentioned by sages. Wine is sharp, acid, dry, parchifying, and light, and induces quickness in sexual intercourse. Even back then. 2. It pervades even the minutest capillaries of the system, but its effect on the fat is just opposite. The qualities of sharpness, etc., mentioned by the sages have disturbing effect on the mind. 3. Excessively drunk, wines and spirits are fatal. Remember, this is disease we're talking about. So drunkenness apparently is a disease.
And that's verse 3.
Verse 3. Excessively drunk, wines and spirits are fatal. With their qualities of sharpness, etc., they destroy the vitality of the addict and bring about sluggishness. Exciting the sense organs, wine upsets the mind. On taking it for the first time or second time, it may have an exciting and exhilarating effect on the drinker. I'm getting thirsty. It's not. 5-6. The fool, carried away by indecision and uncertainty, considers it pleasing. A king who becomes an addict to wine becomes unbridled, like an unchecked serpent. There is nothing that he will not do in his inebriation. Wine is the source of unspeakable mischiefs and sports wickedness. 7-9. It is the sole guide of wretchedness that has 100 paths leading to it. Bereft of all energetic actions, the addict in the third stage of inebriety may yearn for wine always. The sinful wretch has now come to a stage worse than death. He cannot distinguish between righteousness and evil, pleasure and pain, honor and dishonor, and wholesome and unwholesome. Withered up and deluded, highly pleased at times and dejected at others, he loses his power of memory and falls unconscious. Well-built, strong persons of gluttonous habits may not become too intoxicated after drinking wine over a heavy meal.
Eating helps.
Especially if you're a big, strong person eating lots of food, you could have a drink and might not notice as much.
Right.
10. The ailment of inebriety may be caused by the three humors, Vayu, Pitta, and Kapha, severally or in combination. Unconsciousness and pain in the heart characterize all varieties.
So there are things that can make you sick that'll make you act drunk. I think that's what they're getting at there. Because they're like some people that have strokes will act drunk.
Oh, that's an interesting
They
idea.
slur their speech, they stagger around, they have a lot of the same things.
Well, I will. It's an interesting idea. I withhold final judgment. Maybe 11 to 13. 11 to 13. Thirst engendered by frequent loose motions, mild dejection, fever and non-relish for food, constipation, darkness of vision, hiccup, difficulty in breathing, sleeplessness, excessive perspiration, obstruction of ordure, vishtambha, intumescence, and mental agitation to characterize all types of inebriety. The patient is in a dreamy state and does not speak when addressed. Due to the attack of pitta, there's a burning sensation, fever and perspiration, fainting, and a continuous palpitation of the heart. Due to the action of kapha, there is vomiting, disquietude, sleepiness, and udara-gaurava. Tympanites.
Ringing in the ears?
Nope, not tinnitus. TYMP, tympanites. Heaviness in the stomach due to gas trouble.
I'm not sure what that is.
Okay. 14 to 15. In the ailment of inebriation due to the action of all humors in combinations, all the symptoms can be observed. Those who knowingly take to wine become victims thereof and lose the power of thinking, and mental disorders set in. Everything is pleasing to them, whether a chip of wood or an article of food. They do not differentiate between them. Due to the action of vayu, many of these symptoms occur. The patient spits out mucus, matters of phlegm, and experiences parchedness of throat and somnolence. He does not brook sounds. His sound is distracted. He feels rheumatic pain all over the body. His heart and throat are affected. He falls into fainting fits. He gasps for breath. Excessive thirst, nausea, and fever also oppress him. A person who controls himself and intelligently refrains from drinking wine is never afflicted by any disorder, whether physical or mental. Oh, right. Excuse me, that was editorial comment. 1819. Deluded persons of irascible temperament indulging in injudicious diet suffer from the three disorders of inebriation, epileptic fits, and abject prostration, more and more powerful in the order of enumeration. This is due to the obstruction of ducts carrying fat, blood, and other lymphatic secretions. Inebriation is caused by the derangement of all the humors, impure blood, and presence of wine and toxic matter in the system. 20. In the ailment of inebriation due to the derangement of vayu, the patient becomes anemic and all brightness of complexion vanishes. The body assumes a coarse dark reddish hue. The patient becomes deceitful in behavior and fickle-minded. The intoxicated person becomes irritable and quarrelsome due to the affliction of pitta, and his body assumes a reddish-yellow hue. The affliction of kapha is responsible for the symptoms of somnolence, loose irrelevant talks, or when the patient appears to be in a trance. Next is 22 to 26. The combined action of all the doshas brings about all the above symptoms, as well as obstruction of the circulation of blood and paralysis of the limbs. If the patient exhibits a loathsome desire or fails to recognize familiar voices, it is an indication of derangement of pitta. He may be exhausted utterly and go to deep sleep, but the body may be shaking vigorously. The sign of an affliction of vayu must be carefully noted. The inebriated patient may either see the sky red, blue, and black, or without seeing anything sink in darkness. He may regain consciousness immediately, but may experience pain in the cardiac region, a shivering sensation, and vertigo. In epileptic fits brought about by derangement of vayu, the patient has hiccup and brownish red color of the skin. Afflicted by pitta, the patient, seeing the sky red and yellow, may sink into swoon. When he wakes up, he perspires profusely and is oppressed with excessive thirst and a burning sensation.
You're talking about delirium tremens.
During the fit, a portion of the body may be yellow and the other blue. His eyes may be red, yellow, or crimson. 27-28. In kapha affliction, the epileptic patient sees the sky enveloped with clouds, as it were, sinks into a deep coma, and regains consciousness very late. He complains of disquietness in the cardiac region. There is salivation. Heavy and benumbed in limbs, he falls in a thud like a goat in the unconscious state. Like those goats that fall asleep? Does he know about those?
I don't know. Maybe so. Maybe so.
In the combined action of all the doshas, it appears like an upasmara, epilepsy.
Yeah, it's interesting that they're confusing epilepsy and drunkenness.
Yeah, well, they're seeing the fit itself as of a common nature, I guess, with drunken behavior.
Mm-hmm.
And, it seems like there's other things like stroke, which could provide similarly interpreted behavior. Mm-hmm. And even other kinds of, even stuttering and things like that. Mm-hmm. Anyway, 29-30. He falls down motionless, does not have any frightful convulsion. Did I do this? Yeah, no. 29-30. He falls down motionlessly and does not have any frightful convulsive movements of limbs. In the ailment of mudda, murcha, the morbid humors spread themselves out and become calm without medication when the patient sinks into prostration. Speech, body, and the mind do not function properly, but he does not lose strength. Patients who fall down in prostration fall like logs of wood, no better than dead, but with risk of death. If the treatment is not immediately carried out, he may die like a person in a deep sea full of crocodiles. 33. A person in prostration, like the person in the sea, should be immediately taken out of it. A person suffering from inebriation may be irritated or pleased, it is certain. Finally, 34 and 35. Used judiciously, wine relieves persons of worries, otherwise leads them to hell. It gives ability to work, helps the natural functions, and blesses with beauty. Judicious use of wine is like that of nectar. Well, that was an interesting note to end on because it had seemed very negative throughout all of this. But basically, then in the says if you have the sense to just drink a little bit, it's nice.
It can be fun.
Yeah. Okay.
That was very nice.
Yeah, thank you. Very nice. Yeah.
And have a lot to argue with. It sounded to me like they were doing more of this diagnostics, like we've been looking at, where they were trying to figure out what's wrong with the person and what to do about it. So, in a lot of ways, I can see where they're thinking that drunkenness and epilepsy are connected might not be very productive, but maybe it would be in some ways. I don't know. They're seeing it as an impurity that the body's trying to
toxins
throw off, and maybe that's true. I don't know.
Well, alcohol is.
It certainly is when you're drunk, but I'm not sure it's the same thing when you're having brainstorms and things like that, where the nervous system is basically firing all at the same time. That's more what's going on with epilepsy.
Well, even in the early age, India wasn't ever a big drinking culture.
Right.
There were some people who drank. There were certainly medicinal wines. We know about Ayurvedic wines, and they were making these beer type things. I mean, I'm sure there was village wine. It doesn't take much to figure that out. And Chung in the hills was known,
and toddy probably
Yeah.
some sort.
It talks about kings who
India.
drink, and I think you'd sort of expect people of wealth. And it talks about how it's so, less noticeable in people that are sturdy build with food.
Maybe
So,
heavy
this
set
is
or something like that.
we know these things now, and in fact, it's part of you take the alcohol course for serving. They talk about how alcohol affects people differently. I mean, it's in the great books of knowledge here, the ocean of wisdom.
Thanks for joining us.
From Motilal Banarsi Das. Please feel free to order online. Yeah, and now